The clock on the kitchen wall ticked like a countdown to something terrible. Emily stood by the sink, staring at the drops of water that slid down her trembling hands. The evening light poured through the blinds, streaking across the floor like prison bars. She could hear his footsteps upstairs, slow, heavy, deliberate. Each thud made her heart pound faster. She didn't move. She didn't breathe. Then came his voice. "Emily!" Mark's tone was calm. Too calm. That was always worse than when he shouted. She turned, clutching the dish towel like a lifeline. "Yes, Mark." Her voice barely carried. He appeared in the doorway. Tall, composed, in the same blue shirt he wore to work. His tie was still loose around his neck. He looked like the perfect husband, the kind that neighbors admired, the kind that smiled at barbecues and held doors open for strangers. But Emily knew better. "What's this?" he asked, holding up a bill. His voice was light, but his eyes were already cold. "It's the electric bill," she said quietly. "Why is it higher than last month?" I think the rates went up," he smiled. Just a small practice smile. Then he walked toward her. Each step sounded like a drumbeat in her head. "You think?" he whispered. "You think?" The towel dropped from her hand. She stepped back, hitting the counter behind her. "Mark, please, The sound came first, a sharp crack that echoed through the kitchen. Then came the sting. Emily's head snapped to the side, her vision flashing white. Her knees buckled, but she caught herself on the counter. "Don't make excuses," he said. His voice was calm again, almost gentle. "You know I hate when you lie." "I didn't lie," she murmured, tears blurring her sight. He walked away, humming softly as he climbed the stairs. The door slammed. Silence followed. Emily stood there for a long time, listening to her heartbeat thudding in her ears. Then she turned off the kitchen light, went to the bathroom, and stared at her reflection. The right side of her face was red, swelling fast. She touched it lightly and winced. Tomorrow she'd have to hide it again. Makeup, long hair, maybe sunglasses, the usual. She'd been married to Mark for 7 years. 7 years of smiles for the world and bruises for her. He wasn't always like this. In the beginning, he was charming, smart, successful, funny. Everyone loved him. So did she. But it started small. A raised voice, a slammed door, a cruel joke disguised as teasing. Then the first shove, the first slap. By the time Emily realized she was living in fear, it was already too late. She reached for her phone, thinking about calling her sister, Rachel, but she stopped. The last time she tried, Mark found out. He'd smashed her phone and told her she didn't need anyone but him. Now, she believed him. Not because she wanted to, but because she was too scared not to. That night, she lay awake beside him, staring at the ceiling. His arm was around her, his breath even and calm. Anyone walking in would think it was a picture of love. But Emily's body was rigid. Her mind was miles away. She thought about leaving, about running. But where would she go? He had the house, the money, the control, and the charm to convince everyone she was crazy. She turned her face toward the window. A siren wailed somewhere in the distance. Maybe someone else was in trouble tonight too. The next morning, Emily woke up dizzy. Her cheek ached. She tried to get up, but her vision blurred. The room spun. The last thing she remembered was reaching for the door, then darkness swallowing her whole. When she opened her eyes again, everything was white. The ceiling, the walls, the sheets. She was in a hospital bed. A machine beeped softly beside her. The scent of antiseptic hung in the air. Her mouth was dry, her head pounding. And then she saw him, Mark, sitting by her bedside, holding her hand, his face full of worry. "Oh, thank God," he said softly. "You scared me, sweetheart." Emily blinked, confused. "What happened?" "You fainted," he said, brushing her hair from her face. "You've been pushing yourself too hard. I told the doctors you've been stressed lately." His voice was smooth, calm, like a practiced performance, the kind of act he'd done 100 times before. Emily wanted to speak, to tell the truth, but her throat closed. She looked at the nurse standing near the door, writing something on a clipboard. Their eyes met for a second. The nurse's gaze lingered, sharp, assessing, like she knew something wasn't right. Mark noticed the nurse watching and smiled politely. "She's been through a lot lately," he said, giving Emily's hand a gentle squeeze that felt more like a warning. The nurse smiled back faintly, but didn't look away. Emily turned her face toward the window, silent tears sliding down her cheek. The nurse saw them, and in that moment, just from that look, Emily knew. Someone finally suspected the truth. The nurse's name was Nora Bennett, mid-30s, calm eyes, the kind of woman who'd seen too many stories play out in emergency rooms. She didn't need to ask questions to know when something wasn't right, and nothing about this woman, this quiet, bruised, trembling Emily, felt right. Nora had watched them from the doorway earlier. The husband's perfect composure, the way he answered every question before Emily could, the way his thumb pressed into her hand when the doctor mentioned a possible concussion. It was subtle, but Nora noticed. She always did. When Mark finally left to grab a coffee, Nora walked in quietly, clipboard in hand. Emily was awake, staring blankly at the window. "How are you feeling, honey?" Nora asked gently. Emily flinched before answering. "I'm fine, just dizzy." Nora nodded slowly. "That's normal after fainting, but sometimes fainting happens for a reason. Low blood sugar, exhaustion, stress." She paused. "Or other causes." Emily's lips parted, but no words came. Nora looked at her, not just looked, but saw her. The faint bruises under makeup, the small tremor in her hands, the way she flinched at footsteps in the hallway. Nora's voice softened. "You're safe here, Emily. You can tell me if something else happened." Emily's heart raced. She opened her mouth, then stopped. What if Mark came back and found out? What if the hospital called the police? What if no one believed her? She forced a small smile. "No, I just fainted." Nora studied her face. She'd heard that sentence too many times. All the same, she wrote something on her clipboard. A note that said, "Possible domestic situation. Monitor closely." Minutes later, Mark walked in with 2 coffees. "Here you go, sweetheart," he said, setting one on the table. His tone was sugar sweet, dripping with affection. "Thank you," Emily whispered. He turned to Nora with a smile. "She's been working too hard. I keep telling her to rest, but she never listens." Nora smiled politely. "She's lucky to have such a caring husband." Mark's grin widened. "I do my best." But the moment he turned his back to throw away the empty cup, Nora saw it. Emily's shoulders tightening, her eyes darting nervously to him. Fear. Quiet, controlled. When Nora left the room, she went straight to the nurse's station and opened Emily's file. Her vitals showed no underlying medical reason for fainting, but her records listed 2 previous emergency visits in the past year, both marked as accidental falls. Nora's gut tightened. She'd been in this job long enough to know those weren't accidents. Back in the room, Mark sat by Emily, brushing her hand. "You scared me," he said again. "I thought something happened when I found you on the floor." Emily stayed silent. Her head pounded. She could feel his eyes on her, even when she looked away. "I'll be fine," she murmured. "Good," he said softly, then leaned closer, voice low. "Because you know how much I worry when you don't take care of yourself." His words sounded caring, but Emily heard the threat underneath. The doctor entered, breaking the tension. "Mrs. Reed will keep you overnight for observation, just to be safe." Mark nodded immediately. "That's a good idea. I'll stay with her." Nora's voice came from the corner. "Visiting hours end at 9, sir. After that, she'll need rest." For a moment, his jaw tightened. Just a flicker. Then that charming smile returned. Of course, whatever's best for her. When he finally left that evening, Emily felt her lungs release air she hadn't realized she was holding. Nora came in quietly after he was gone. I just wanted to check on you one more time, she said. Emily stared at the blanket. Her voice was a whisper. He told you what happened? He said you fainted. Nora replied carefully. But that's not what I'm asking. Emily looked up, eyes glistening. Please, she whispered, don't say anything. He'll know. Nora sat beside her. You don't have to explain. I just want you to know. I believe you. And you're not alone. Emily shook her head. You don't understand. He's careful. Everyone loves him. My friends, my neighbors. He's perfect to them. If I tell anyone, they'll think I'm crazy. Nora took her hand gently. I've heard that before too. But monsters often wear perfect masks. Tears slipped down Emily's face. I can't leave him. I don't have money or anywhere to go. Nora's voice was steady, calm. Then promise me something. If he ever hurts you again, really hurts you, come back here. Ask for me. I'll help. Emily nodded slowly, gripping Nora's hand like it was the first real lifeline she'd had in years. That night, Emily couldn't sleep. The hospital room was too quiet. Every beep from the monitor felt like a countdown. She thought about what Nora said, about masks and monsters, and for the first time in a long time, she wondered if she deserved more than just surviving. Outside her room, Nora watched through the small window, arms folded. She'd seen that look before. Fear mixed with the faint spark of something else, hope. But she also knew hope could be dangerous if it wasn't protected. Because men like Mark never let go quietly. And somewhere in her gut, Nora knew. This story wasn't over. It was just beginning. When Emily returned home from the hospital, the world outside looked the same. Quiet streets, trimmed lawns, neighbors waving from driveways. But to her, everything felt different. The air itself seemed thinner. Every sound felt louder. Every glance from Mark, sharper. He carried her bag inside, smiling like a man who'd just brought his wife home from a honeymoon instead of a hospital bed. There we go, he said cheerfully, setting her purse on the counter. You're home, safe and sound. His hand brushed her shoulder. She flinched. He noticed. You should rest, he said softly. We don't want another incident, do we? The way he said that word, incident, made her stomach twist. She nodded quickly. No, of course not. As he walked away, she caught his reflection in the hallway mirror. His smile faded the second he turned his back. The mask dropped. His jaw clenched. The man in the reflection looked nothing like the one neighbors adored. That night, Emily lay in bed, staring at the ceiling again, just like before. But now she kept replaying Nora's words. You're not alone. It echoed in her head like a heartbeat. The next morning, her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Hi, Emily. This is Nurse Nora. Just checking how you're feeling today. Her chest tightened. For a moment, she thought Mark might see it. But he was already gone. Off to work early. She quickly typed back. I'm fine. Thank you for helping me. If you ever need someone to talk to. Nora replied. I'm here. No judgment. No pressure. Emily stared at those words for a long time, before locking her phone again. By afternoon, she decided to take a walk. The bruises had faded a little. Makeup covered the rest. She walked down to the park near their house, her safe place, as she used to call it years ago. But halfway through, her phone rang. Mark. She froze. Her thumb hovered over the screen. He never called her during the day. Hello. Where are you? His voice was calm, but not calm. That dangerous two-even tone again. I just went for a walk. I needed fresh air, silence. Then, you didn't tell me. I didn't think I had to. You always tell me, he said softly. Remember, she swallowed hard. Yes, I'm sorry. Good. His voice lightened. Come home. I'll bring lunch. When she arrived, he was already waiting. 2 takeout bags on the table, flowers in a vase. The perfect husband again. See, he said, smiling as she sat down. We're fine. You just need to take better care of yourself. Emily forced a nod, but her hands trembled under the table. Mark reached over and touched her wrist. Gently. Too gently. You scared me when you fainted. You know that. She looked up, meeting his eyes. You scared me too, Mark. The room went still. The smile froze on his face. His fingers tightened slightly around her wrist. What did you say? Emily's throat went dry. I just meant, I didn't mean. He leaned closer, voice low. Don't ever say that again. Tears filled her eyes, but she forced herself to look away. She knew that look in his eyes, the one that came right before the storm. That evening, after he fell asleep, she went downstairs and opened her laptop. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. She typed, "Domestic violence helplines near me," then deleted it. Typed again, deleted again, then she heard footsteps. She slammed the laptop shut, just as Mark's voice came from the stairs. What are you doing? Just reading. At this hour, he stepped closer. Show me. Her chest tightened. It's nothing, I swear. He grabbed the laptop, opened it, saw the faint trace of her last Google search in the browser history. His expression darkened instantly. So that's what we're doing now, he said quietly. You're trying to ruin me. No, Mark, I wasn't. The slap came fast, then another, then silence. When it was over, he stood there breathing heavily. You make me do this, Emily. You make me crazy when you don't trust me. She lay still, shaking. Her cheek burned. Her soul burned more. The next morning, she woke up on the couch, the right side of her face swollen again. She didn't remember when she fell asleep. Her phone buzzed. Another message from Nora. Emily, please respond. I've been thinking about you. This time, Emily didn't hesitate. He hurt me again. A long pause. Then Nora replied, Where are you right now? Home. He's at work. Can you come to the hospital? Tell the front desk you're here for me. Don't say anything else. Emily's fingers trembled as she typed, I'm scared. That's okay. Nora wrote back, You're doing the right thing. I'll be here. An hour later, Emily stepped through the hospital doors. Every step felt like walking through water. Slow, heavy, unreal. She told the receptionist she was there to see Nurse Nora. Within minutes, Nora appeared, smiling warmly but with eyes that were serious. Sharp. Come with me, she said softly. They walked down a quiet hallway to an empty room. Emily sat on the edge of the bed, her hands shaking. Nora closed the door behind her. You did the right thing, Nora said. I shouldn't have come, Emily whispered. If he finds out, Emily, Nora said firmly, taking her hand. You're not going back there. Not this time. Emily broke down, sobbing. The kind of sob that shakes the whole body. The kind that's been trapped for years. Nora held her. We'll call someone. A counselor. The police if you're ready, but no more pretending. Emily looked up, tears streaking her face. He'll come for me. Nora met her eyes, steady and calm. Then we'll make sure he never touches you again. And for the first time, Emily believed it might actually be possible. But outside, in a black car parked near the entrance, someone was watching. Mark's hand gripped the steering wheel. His jaw was tight. He'd followed her. Mark sat in his car, parked across the street from the hospital. He watched Emily walk inside. Sunglasses on, head down, his mouth thinned. His face went cold. She was talking to that nurse. Nora, he told himself it was nothing. Then he tightened his grip on the wheel. He would not lose her. Not to some meddling woman. Inside, Emily sat with Nora in that quiet consultation room. The blinds were drawn. Nora shut the door and locked it. Her voice was soft, but different now. Controlled, sharp. We're not just moving you, she said. We're trapping him. Emily's head snapped up. What do you mean? She whispered. Nora reached into her folder. A small recorder. A hospital security request form. A contact number for a detective she trusted. I've worked with people like him before, Nora said. They believe their masks will protect them. They don't plan for consequences. Emily's hands trembled. I don't want to get him in trouble, she said. You want to be safe, Nora answered. That's not the same thing. She slid the recorder across the table. Wear this when you see him. Let him talk. Let him show who he really is. I'll keep the cameras rolling. I'm calling security to be ready. And I have someone on standby from domestic services. Emily looked down at the tiny device. It felt like the first honest thing she'd held in years. She nodded. Mark re-entered the building with a practiced smile. He told the receptionist he was there to see his wife. He walked the halls with measured steps. He looked like a man who belonged. The mask was flawless. Nora saw him from the station. Her face gave nothing away. But inside, she was counting seconds. She radioed quietly to security. A recorded message would give them probable cause if he overstepped. Cameras covered the main entrances. Nora had already checked. He reached the consultation room door. Nora opened it a crack and smiled. Mr. Reed, she said. Thank you for coming. He stepped in. Up close, he smelled like cologne and coffee. He greeted Emily with that same soft tone. How are you feeling? He asked. Emily's fingers curled around the recorder, hidden in her palm under the blanket. Her voice was small. I'm scared, she said. Please, no more. Mark's smile tightened. You always make things dramatic, he murmured. People worry for you. You worry me. His hand found her wrist. He squeezed. Too tight, Emily swallowed. She let the recorder pick up every shift. His words, his tone, the quiet threats, the little confessions he thought were private. You think you can just leave, he said low. You think I'll let you destroy me? That's not what Emily started. You'll ruin everything. His voice lowered. My job, my life, my friends. He leaned closer. And people will believe me, because I look better than you. The squeeze turned to a sharp tug. Emily flinched. She let out a soft sound that Nora had been listening for. From the doorway, a security officer stepped forward, calm, official. Sir, I need you to release her hand. Mark jerked back. His jaw clicked. He turned to the officer. The charm returned, for a second. She's my wife. Is there a problem? Nora, steady, called out loud enough to be heard. We received a report she was being coerced. Staff witnessed concerning behavior. I asked security to check. We have the right to intervene for patient safety. Mark's eyes flicked to the camera above the door. He didn't like the tiny red light. He never liked to be watched. The officer asked him to step into the hallway. Mark's voice rose. He argued. Then he did something he thought would scare them off. He raised his voice, his hand, and stepped forward as if to pull Emily up by force. That moment was everything. The camera captured his face. The recorder in Emily's hand captured his voice. The admission, the threats, the anger. Security had clear evidence of aggressive behavior toward a patient. The officer radioed for backup. 2 more officers arrived in under 5 minutes. Mark realized then that his act was unraveling. He cursed loud. He tried to smooth it out with a practiced grin. She's hysterical, he told them. She's making this up. Nora stepped closer and slid Emily's folded signed statement across to the officer. Emily's words, written calmly earlier, requesting privacy and noting prior incidents. She also handed the officer the hospital's security footage pull form. We have a recording and witness statements, she said. Please take it as a formal complaint. Mark's face blanched. For the first time in years, his control slipped in public. He demanded to see the footage. He demanded to see Emily's records. He tried to use charm with the officers. Familiarity, a smooth explanation about stress and misunderstanding. Nothing worked. An officer read him his rights for a misdemeanor assault. They placed him in handcuffs in the hallway. Neighbors and hospital visitors watched. Phones out, eyes wide. He shouted. He begged. He accused Emily of lying. He swore they would hear from his lawyer. But none of it mattered now. The camera would not lie. The recorder would not forget. His mask had cracked. On video, on audio, in the open air. Later in the security office, Nora sat with Emily and watched the footage. Emily's voice trembled at first, then steadied. She watched the man she married become a stranger in a looping clip. She watched her life, once hidden in shadows, laid out in bright light. "You did it," Nora whispered. "You were brave." Emily's mouth formed a small laugh. It was shaky, but it was real. "It doesn't feel like revenge," she said. "It feels like justice." Nora shook her head. "Justice," she corrected. "But revenge has a place in this story too. You took back control. You let the truth ruin his act. That's the best kind of revenge. It strips him of what he loved most, his image." News of the incident spread quietly at first, through hospital staff, then to co-workers, then to his employer. When Nora forwarded copies of the recorded threats and the security time-stamped footage to HR and the detective on standby, they didn't want him representing their company this week. His name was flagged. A suspension email went out. Calls to his references turned into questions. His carefully curated life began to fracture. Mark waited at the police station, rage coiling in his chest. He'd imagined they'd take him home after a warning. He did not expect the detective to show him the footage and then tell him he was being held pending charges. He did not expect his partner at work to send a terse text that evening. "We need to talk. Office tomorrow." On the quiet ride back to the empty apartment he shared with his reputation, the realization sank in. He was exposed. The neighbors would whisper. The photos would circulate. His friends would ask awkward questions. His promotions would stall. People who used to praise him would step back. That night, Emily slept in a room that felt like hers for the first time in years. Not because Mark was gone, but because she had reclaimed a piece of herself. Nora sat across the hall and made a few final calls. Legal aid, shelter follow-up, counseling. She had no illusions. This battle would stretch on. There would be court hearings. There would be hard days. But the revenge, quiet, clinical, and irreversible, had done its work. It had taken his mask and set it on a table for everyone to see. Emily woke before dawn. For the first time in a long while, she looked at herself without flinching. She touched her cheek, still bruised, but healing. She breathed. A small, fierce seed of something new began to grow inside her. Outside, sirens had long gone. Inside, a different sound filled the room. The steady hum of fluorescent lights, the soft rustle of paperwork, and somewhere, far away from the hospital's bright fluorescent lights, Mark stared at his phone and watched his life rearrange itself into pieces. Emily woke to sunlight spilling across the small, sterile room, the quiet hum of the air conditioner, and the faint beeping of hospital monitors were the only sounds. For the first time in years, she didn't flinch at every footstep outside the door. Nora was already at her side, holding a folder. "Good morning," she said. "How did you sleep?" Emily rubbed her eyes. "Better than I have I don't even remember." "That's good," Nora said. "Today, we're going to start putting things in motion. You ready?" Emily nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "I think so." By mid-morning, they had called in a counselor, a legal advocate, and a detective who had been following Mark's pattern. Each step was methodical. Every piece of evidence from the hospital recordings, Emily's written statements, and the security footage was catalogued. Emily's heart raced. She felt small, fragile, but also fierce. This was her first taste of taking control. The detective, a sharp woman named Detective Harris, spoke directly to Emily. "You did the right thing. Most women don't. They stay silent. You didn't. That's why he's going to face real consequences. Emily stared at her hands. I never thought anyone would believe me. Detective Harris shook her head. That's what abusers rely on. That people won't see. But we did. And now, he can't hide it. Mark, meanwhile, was facing the unraveling of everything he had built. HR emails sat unopened on his work computer. The small group of co-workers who had previously idolized him now whispered, sending suspicious glances and muted messages. His social media, carefully curated to show him as the perfect husband, now had a shadow over it. Friends and family noticing Emily's absence, her hospital posts, and a few local news mentions of a high-profile domestic safety intervention. He paced in his apartment, jaw tight. He called Emily. She didn't answer. He called his sister. She asked pointed questions and said she'd check on Emily's side of things. He tried to charm, tried to intimidate, tried to make everyone believe it was Emily's fault. Nothing worked. The day of the hearing arrived. Emily sat in a courtroom she had never imagined she would enter, her hands gripping her folder like armor. Nora was in the gallery, Detective Harris beside her. The legal advocate, a woman named Clara, whispered encouragement. Mark entered last. He looked composed at first. That familiar mask. Polished, confident, untouchable. But Emily didn't see him as polished. She saw a man exposed, a man whose every word in that hospital room, every subtle threat, had been recorded. A man whose mask had been shattered on video. The judge called the court to order. Emily's lawyer presented the evidence. Emily watched the footage. She listened to her own voice, the threats, the intimidation, every bruise, every flinch, every whispered threat came alive on the screen. Mark's face turned from pale to red to white. He tried to interrupt. He tried to claim it was staged, that she was lying. But the judge silenced him, and the evidence spoke for itself. By the end of the hearing, Mark faced restraining orders, mandatory counseling, and a potential criminal investigation for assault. For the first time, Emily realized he couldn't control her life anymore. He couldn't manipulate her friends, her family, or her reputation. Outside the courthouse, reporters whispered. Neighbors looked on. Emily walked beside Nora, her steps steady, her head held high. She felt free. Nora squeezed her shoulder. You did this, she said. Every step. You took back control. Emily looked at the sunlight reflecting off the courthouse walls. It doesn't feel like revenge, she said. It feels like justice. Nora smiled. Justice is sweeter when you know the truth. And sometimes it's the best revenge too. Stripping someone of their control is a kind of power. Emily took a deep breath, feeling for the first time the weight lifting off her chest. She didn't need to scream, hit, or destroy him physically. She had taken back her life. She had exposed him publicly and legally. That was enough. Back at her apartment that evening, Emily opened her window. The city lights glimmered. Cars honked in the distance. People laughed in the streets. For years, she had lived in silence and fear, pretending everything was normal. But now, she felt something else entirely. Possibility. Her phone buzzed. Another text from Nora. You're strong. You survived. You can do anything now. Emily smiled, reading it. She typed back, thank you for everything. And for the first time, she felt hope. Not just fear, not just survival. Hope. Mark's phone sat on his kitchen counter, silent. Calls unanswered. Messages ignored. His life, his image, fractured. And there was nothing he could do to fix it. Emily didn't need to watch him suffer. She didn't need to celebrate. She only needed to live, and live she would. Emily woke up early, sunlight streaming across her bedroom. For the first time in years, she didn't flinch at every small sound. No shadows, no sudden footsteps. No fear. She walked to the mirror and studied her face. Bruises were fading. Her eyes were tired, but sharp. Alive. She thought about Mark, about the way his mask had finally cracked, about the recordings, the footage, the court, about the quiet revenge that had taken away his control, piece by piece. She smiled faintly, not out of joy for him, but for herself. She had survived. She had reclaimed her life. The next few weeks were slow, careful, and deliberate. Nora stayed in touch, making sure Emily had everything she needed. Counselors, support groups, even a financial plan to regain independence. Emily discovered something surprising. With every small step toward independence, she felt stronger. With every phone call she ignored from Mark, with every email she didn't answer, she felt freer. One morning, she walked in the park where she used to hide her tears. She felt the sun on her face, and for the first time, she didn't feel guilty about being alive. A woman nearby dropped her scarf. Emily picked it up and handed it back with a smile. The woman's face lit up. Emily realized something. Small kindness, small connections. These things mattered. They reminded her she wasn't broken. At night, Emily sat by her laptop and typed a message to a domestic violence forum. I survived. You can too. There is hope. There are people who will help. You are not alone. She paused, thinking about every woman trapped like she had been. Every person silenced by fear. Every person told their story didn't matter. Then she hit post. She didn't care if Mark saw it. She didn't care about rumors or gossip. She cared about truth. She cared about her own life. Mark, on the other hand, was learning a different lesson. His image, polished for years, lay in ruins. Co-workers whispered. Friends avoided him. The police investigation and restraining orders followed him everywhere. He had nothing to charm or intimidate with anymore. And yet, Emily didn't watch him suffer. She didn't need to. She had gained something far more powerful. Control over her own life. Weeks later, Emily met Nora for coffee at a quiet cafe. Nora smiled. You're different now. Emily laughed softly. I feel different. I'm not hiding anymore. You've taken back everything he tried to steal from you. Your dignity, your voice, your freedom. That's revenge enough, isn't it? Emily nodded. Yes, it's more than revenge. It's life. They sat in silence for a moment, letting the sunlight warm their faces. Emily realized she could feel joy again. Small and quiet, but hers entirely. That night, Emily wrote in her journal, I was afraid for so long. I believed I had no power. I believed silence kept me safe. But it didn't. The moment I spoke, the moment I let someone help me, the fear began to fade. You don't need to hit back. You don't need to humiliate or destroy anyone. Truth, courage, and action, they're the best revenge. They set you free. She closed the journal. For the first time in years, she felt the weight lift from her chest. Emily went to bed that night without fear, without trembling, without guilt. For the first time, she slept peacefully. Outside, the city hummed. The world continued, but Emily's life had changed forever. And she knew one thing for certain, she would never be silenced again. If you or someone you know is going through abuse, don't stay silent. Speaking up can save your life, and reaching out for help is a sign of strength, not weakness. There are people, organizations, and resources ready to protect and support you. You are never truly alone. Remember, reclaiming your freedom and dignity is the most powerful form of courage. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe so more people can hear these real-life stories and find the hope and inspiration they need to take action.